Welcome to Chapter 3 of the Mid-Illini Cruise Planning course. In this chapter, we will be covering boat equipment and systems. There are many different types of systems that are on board a larger boat. Now, these include engines, electrical systems, sailboat equipment, safety equipment, water system, head, and galley. So let's start looking at engines, at the diesel engines. The diesel engines are preferred for long-range cruising because they have a lot of advantages to them. First of all, they have better reliability. Secondly, they're a little safer than gasoline engines because the fuel does not evaporate, as well as diesel engines get better fuel economy. On the cons, however, the diesel engines are heavier than a gas engine of similar power. They're more expensive to buy initially, and they are more expensive to service. We see a lot of gasoline engines for short-range sailing. The pros for them is they generally have more horsepower for the weight. They're less expensive to maintain because generally most mechanics know how to handle an automotive engine, and a lot of those same concepts apply to a boat gas engine. They're not quite as noisy as a diesel engine either. However, on the negative side, they do not get as good a fuel economy, and there are some safety concerns with gasoline engine, primarily because the fuel can evaporate and catch fire if it gets leaks. Most sailboats since 1980 have been built with a diesel engine on those, so they're much more popular in these days. One rule of thumb when you're looking at getting an engine for your sailboat, you need enough horsepower that's really two times the vessel's displacement or weight, and divided by 1,000. That will give you a good horsepower rating for the boat. If you have an engine on your boat, you're going to need to have some spare parts just in case you have a problem somewhere when you're out sailing. The farther away you are from shore or a service center, the more things you're going to need and probably have multiple duplicates of various important pieces. The back of our chapter appendix this time has a list of key items to have on your boat. On my boat, when I go sailing, I've got a set of winch pawls just in case the winch breaks so that I can continue on my race if I'm in that. Certainly you would need an impeller because those fail often. Belts and things like that also are fairly common. Gary carries a roll of rescue tape so that he can apply it no matter what sort of thing might give you trouble. And it is amazing how many things rescue tape can fix. If you're taking a long cruise, you'll probably be a long ways away from parts. Even in the exotic islands, parts are not readily available, so you'll want to have some of those parts on board. In addition, you'll also want to have some basic tools in order to help you do some maintenance on your own, because there are a lot of things that you can do yourself. For example, like if the diesel fuel gets corrupted and you need to bleed the injectors, you can have a tool to do that, and it's not a very difficult thing to do if you have a wrench that can do that. Another tool that might be useful is a little pry bar that you can pry things around so that you can put them back into place and reattach them. In addition, you'll want to have maintenance manuals for all your systems so that if you don't know how to fix it, when you find a location, they can look at the maintenance manual. A technician can look at the maintenance manual and then repair it there. Also, often I have a set of boxes that I keep my tools grouped by use. For example, I've got a sail repair tub that has all my sail repair stuff in it. I've got a fiberglass repair tub that I keep things like fiberglass resin and cloth and acetone and things to help spread the stuff out. Also, I have a box with my spare parts with the shackles and pins and screws and bolts that we can use for that. Let's look at the electrical systems that we're likely to see on our boat. Most boats have embedded in there a battery system of 12 volts that's very similar to your car. Some boats also have AC systems that have the same thing as in your house, and this allows us to have some of the modern amenities that we kind of come to grow accustomed to, like perhaps air conditioning. Uh, we might also have a coffee pot, toaster, and a microwave. The AC systems are not really available on unless you have a generator on your boat. Then you can use those niceties when you're out sailing, or if you're hooked up to the shore power at the dock, that will also activate your AC current. Now, the direct current systems are running off a battery like so on your car. They're 12 volts, and that's most common, and there'll be likely several circuits in that range. One option that some cruisers are using now is the golf cart batteries. They're 6-volt batteries, but they can be hooked in series and then also um, provide a little more power, a little less money, and can be discharged to a deeper cycle. The technologies available in these batteries are either at lead acid, like in your car, or a gel system, which is more prevalent recently. There are likely going to be multiple battery circuits for use. The the house batteries will be running your refrigerator and the lights and things like that. And then there will also be a separate circuit for starting your engine. You want to have two circuits. That way, if you run the batteries down using your refrigerator, you'll still be able to start the engine and recharge the systems. The engine alternator is what we really use for recharging those systems. The AC circuits also provide a connection to to when you're at the dock. You can plug those in to an outlet at the end of the dock, and then that will provide power to your boat while you're there. Most boats will either have a 30 or 50 amp service, and those have different plug adapters that match up to whatever your boat has. And so you'll need one of those doggles to be able to make the connections. One of the nice things when we're down in the BVIs is by hooking up to shore power, our boats will likely have AC uh, air conditioning when we're on shore, but then when we get offshore, you don't have, unless you have a generator, you won't have that air conditioning capabilities. In addition, some of the boats also have ways to provide additional uh, power, like through a generator, which we had on our last boat. Also, the solar panels are becoming very popular to keep your systems uh, with power. And then also we can have wind power generators that can generate electricity for charging our batteries. In addition, now we can talk about the air conditioning a little bit. Uh, Most of the boats we have are primarily AC air conditioning, but one of the advantages or the critical items is that they need a lot of power. So if you're going to use air conditioning, you're likely going to be attached to a shore outlet or have your generator run. For heat, if you're in the Northeast in the wintertime, you're going to want some sort of heating option. Now, if you're planning to live on a boat or spend a long time in the winter, you'll probably want some sort of fuel furnace, which uh, could be using diesel fuel or wood, and a standalone option that is a little furnace in your in your cabin. Sometimes some boats have a heating option off from the engine, and so like a radiator, when the engine is running, the radiator can then come around and provide a heating exchange unit that'll heat the cabin up. Now let's look at some of the systems that you're likely going to find on a sailboat down in the BVIs. First of all, they're probably going to have roller furlings for the jib. If you look over here at this picture, it's got a drum that the rope is attached to that then rolls the jib up around the forestay. Roller furling is now also becoming available in mainsails, so the main actually rolls up on a cable inside the mast to get out of the way. Unfortunately, when you do you roll it up to reduce your sail, it does not provide a very efficient sail configuration. And so it's more to reduce power, not so much for sailing with a smaller sail up. With that rope that goes from the drum, it goes back to the cockpit, so you can actually roll the jib up from the cockpit, and you don't have to go forward when the weather gets bad. There are also electrical and hydraulic systems that can be implemented on bigger boats. Most of the ones are rope systems like this picture. For sail control, we also, if we're running downwind, we'll want to make sure that we don't have an accidental jibe. And so a preventer would then be attached to the boom and then down to the tow rail or some cleat on the deck to hold the boom in place in case the driver loses attention and has an accidental jibe. Our boats are also going to be configured with lazy jacks. What a lazy jack does is it provides a system for when you drop the main, the sail does not fall down into the cockpit. It stays between these two lines that causes the sail to just fold up on itself as it goes down up against the boom. For driving, there are also autopilots on these boats that we can use. And what an autopilot does is you can set your course, say 90 degrees. If we want to sail straight east, we set the course at 90 degrees. We push the button, say hold the course, and then the boat will automatically steer that direction. This is good for long trips, as well as we used it one time when we were in some really funky seas, and the boat was getting tossed all around, and we were trying to steer on the waves. And I put the boat on autopilot, and that just caused it to, I was overreacting, steering way too much, and which then just kept it oscillating back and forth. By putting the autopilot on, it sort of settled the boat down, and then we were able to keep going on our proper course. And additionally, older boats have wind vang steering. And this again is similar system to the autopilot. Rather than doing it from a compass, it actually has a vane, like a weather vane on the back of your boat that then tunes in the tiller so that it keeps you on your course. This is the end of Chapter 3, Part 1. In Chapter 3, Part 2 video, we will look at safety, water, head, and galley systems.